Welcome to Getting Business Back on Track, a virtual event experience from the Buyer's Edge platform. Today, we're talking about restaurant technology, and I'm joined by Brandt Squires. He's the co-founder of FoodBAM and a veteran technology expert changing menus. I think this is something that restaurants are doing a lot now. They're limiting their menus, they're adding different menu items, they're changing it for takeout and things like that. You're the co-founder of FoodBAM, and one of the features that I think is really neat in FoodBAM is the recipe costing feature. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how that works and why that's so important for restaurants right now?
Yeah, I was talking to our president earlier, actually, and I heard him nickname ROI, and I thought that, okay, I get it, ROI, but he said, no, recipe, ordering, and inventory. So these are core things that I think a restaurant should be thinking of ROI, right? So we've talked about ordering and inventory lightly, but let's talk about recipes. There is nothing more important than knowing what the margin and the profit is on every dish that goes out the door. There's nothing more challenging than understanding what that is and calculating it every week. So finding a technology vendor that could take something as complex as recipe with proper customer success and good onboarding and good coaching and train the trainer approach, it's going to take restaurants work to do too. Converting that to a Sesame Street simple report like recipe costing. I mean, we here at FoodBAM, we try to make that very easy. The most important things for us is to work with the team and take what is in their hardware, it's in their head, and get it into a software. So a lot of chefs know that they put a half a pound of beef on the burger. They know that they put one slice of cheese, but they also aren't doing the conversions where if you buy your beef by the pound, but you're saying you put one patty on it, there is too much of a difference. There's too much variance in running your business that way, where you're going to have yield, spoilage, and theft exist in a lot. So weigh everything if you have the opportunity. And if you prefer to just say you put one patty, well, in our software at least, and I would hope on any software that you out there select, they should be able to convert it for you, or you should be able to manually convert it and override whatever they have. But what we like to do with restaurants is, focus on the top 10 selling dishes. And as people are changing their menu, that might change as well. I saw a fine dining establishment here in Florida the other day. They had 3 entrees on it. Before pandemic, they had way more than 10. So they whittled it down. When you whittle down your menu, if you're using an old entree, that's fine. You already have the recipe broken down in many cases, so you just need to update it based on these new costs. Costs are going to rise. So therefore, your menu price has to rise in many cases. And guests are going to be expecting this. So, we at our company, we try to look at your top 10 selling dishes. We try to, spend an hour or less with the chef and putting it in a very easy to use tool where you build a burger, for example, one time. If you build that burger one time, no matter who you're buying the product from, at least in our software, we do offer that ROI, the recipe, ordering, and inventory. So if you're ordering it from one software, then it should automatically update the recipes, based upon the price you paid. So as you do vet technology vendors out there, try to find the one that does it all. I encourage you to challenge them to make sure they're doing it all. A lot of technology vendors do try to bite off more than they can chew. So make sure what they're doing, if they do it all, why are they doing it all? What do they do it best? What is their core? What did they start with? And pay attention to their product roadmap. We're like, oh, you started with this, but you ended up here. Got it. That makes sense. But if you see a bunch of zigzags and you see a bunch of third-party partners that are actually making it happen, something tells me that they might not be doing it all well. But when it comes to recipes, build it once, break it down, have a good customer success team. We at our company, we try to spend an hour at least with our customers just to put in a couple recipes, because when they see the price of that recipe go up and down every week, it empowers them. They get more interested in data and less interested in opinions. And that's a hard chasm to cross, we were talking about earlier. And so I would really encourage, as you're, changing your menu, you've got to plate it out. You've got to see what the margin is. If you're at a 33% margin, well, then say, if I'm at a 28% margin, what would my sell, cost be? If my sell cost is, if I'm selling it for 14, if I sell it for 17, what would my margin be? Because you need to start to think, how should I be selling it online to pull in a profit? And so if you can find software out there that you can just break down a recipe, very simple. If you have to spend 80 hours on a software, I don't think you should be considering that software. Now, if you need to be spending 20 or 30 or less hours on the software, that is going to pay dividends. Much, ROI, not the recipe ordering and inventory ROI, but actual like return into your business. And so find a software that actually helps you build the recipe and update the cost every week. I would heavily I would put a lot of heavy emphasis on asking how that technology vendor gets the data and how they clean the data before it comes in. Because no one wants to take the time in building recipes to immediately have them being out of date a few weeks later. And oftentimes, data in food service is very dirty. And if you're buying Hormel and it substitutes Smithfield, that recipe is out of date. So, finding a company that cleans the data, finding a company that will let you link multiple ingredients to one recipe, these are the companies that deserve your business. And so when you can build a recipe, no matter what beef you bought, because remember, you might have your preference, but it might not be stocked. So if that different beef shows up, it should still go into that recipe, preferably automatically without your staff's work, so that you can see it cost me $2.99 to make this burger that I sell for $14. I'm good. As soon as that cost starts coming up to $3.99, $4.99, you're not good. And so you need to have tools that alert you. You don't need tools that replace you. I think you need tools that bring to your attention where you should be spending your time. And there is, I hope I'm not going to bite my words on this, but I don't think that there is this magic wand recipe costing software out there that completely automates, is always picture perfect, and completely streamlines your business. There's too much behavior in restaurants that's hard to compress this technology on top of for the software to not need some tender loving care along the way. And I meet restaurants all the time. What's the first thing they do when I come in? Do you need a bottle of water? Yeah, wow, that you cooked a whole pan of bacon there. Can I have a piece? Yeah, sure. Yeah, here you go. Well, where is that going? Is that a waste log? Is that going into your recipes? And so I love their hospitality and hospitality, and that's in their veins. And they do that to the guests as well. It's not just their vendors and their sales reps, but it's too hard to break down everything into a software and then view it as gospel. I think you need to find a great software that cleans the data, great team that helps you learn how to use it, ramps you up, and is constantly there from a customer service perspective, but something that gives you the reports so that you know how you can spend a really good 2 minutes with your team, so that you can see, okay, I sold 90 hamburgers yesterday. Very easy to run a point of sale report, product mix. Many softwares out there mix the two together, your POS and your recipe. If you don't have that, you do have a POS and you do have a recipe. So it might just take a little work, but you just say, I sold 90 burgers. I should have this much meat left. And so you can walk in and you can identify. It's not always theft. It's not the first place to think. It could just be, watch the way they're prepping the meat. Did they receive it? Did you receive 40 pounds like you ordered, or did you receive less? Because that's not your staff's fault. If you receive 40 pounds, if you've broken your recipe down and you've weighed it down and you know that each patty is a half a pound, well, is there a waste report? You can ask your team, like, look at how they're prepping it. So I think it will just give you guidance on how to run the business and be proactive versus reactive, which oftentimes in the restaurant world, we get into this reactive monotony game. And so I do think, using technology to empower you, bring things more upfront, take time now while you have time. I'm reading so many great articles about, we're going to look back at this time and we're just going to, did we spend time with our family and our children, and did we exercise, and did we meditate, and did we read? And I'm personally doing everything I can to make sure I look back and try to enjoy a very difficult time. We are spending a lot of more time in our business too, and I want to make sure we can look back as technology advocates to the industry. What did we do during this time? During this time, we started looking at what tools we have and how we can deploy them to help restaurants now. Right? Our sales pitch has changed, and many times our product has morphed. We had special projects, we had custom projects, more than we ever have in company history. So I really want restaurant owners to be able to look back and say, like, did I spend time, on all the great stuff, family and personal and all that sort of stuff, but what did I do on my business during that time? Because when this thing opens back up, and we will all be back, we're not going to have time to break down the recipe and put in the mechanisms in place so that we could be monitoring the business and working on the business, not in it. And so it all starts with the recipe. And to be quite honest, Andy, I see a lot of restaurants don't have their recipes broken down. If they do have a recipe card, it seems pretty out of date. I've seen very talented corporate executive restaurant groups that have everything broken down, and as soon as the executive chef turns away, the person's putting a lot more pinches of this and that. You want to be creative as a chef, and you want to do, you're in marketing. You've got great creative license, and if people start to take that away from you, it could not be a working relationship. So oftentimes, I talk to chefs who, if they have a recipe card and everything's broken down, they don't feel like they have that creative. And so I think if you have the recipe costing down, it's not gospel, but if you can show the chef of how it impacts profit and how their creative translates to profit, that opens up some profit sharing plans. That creates a lot more discipline and a lot more unity and team in this reopen. So I do think you use these tools. They're not big brother. And if they are, I feel, they're big brother for the right reasons.
I really like what you were saying about how you use this time, and that could be a good motivational point on which to close. But I also want to add to that, I think that restaurants are trying to think about, all right, I'm a little cash strapped right now. My future revenue is uncertain. How am I supposed to take this time now to invest in technology? And I think that the compelling speech that you made is really the answer to that. Is to say, look, this is a time of catharsis, a time to clean out your walk-in, to clean out your dry storage, to improve your processes, and then to start from square one with traceability, with good forecasting, with good habits. And technology is going to enable that that restructuring.
Yeah. I mean, how good do you feel when you cleaned your house, when you cleaned your closet? It wasn't fun, but didn't you feel like good after? It had like this aura about you. And so no one wants to open back up their restaurant and unpack all this stress onto the guest. Now is our time to sort of reopen with rigor, reopen with sort of a refreshed, thriving spirit. And that isn't all just smoke and mirrors and hi, how are you? And I've been great. And it's so good to see you. There's a lot in the back of house that's in the back of your mind that's going to become to your guest. And you don't want to do that. So I think now is just a great time to get your operation as close to airtight as you can. That will only be that springboard to serving the guest in so many awesome ways, but in turn serving yourself with the profit for you and your employees to weather this storm that's around for the near term, but we will be back and we all will be at work again. It's just the journey to get there. No one really knows how to build a bridge, if you don't know how long it is and where it is to go. But you got to start by building it, right? And so, look at your back of house operations, look at your profit, look at your, do you have your recipes? If not, break them down, share these recipes with your vendors. There's no harm in saying, look at my recipe card, look at like my margin. I would like to be here. That is a lot more powerful than sitting down, arms closed, saying, can you lower my chicken $3? Because if not, I'm going to go to another vendor. I think you got to have good data, and showing that to your vendor only lets them respect you, just much more. or that much more.